All right, friends, thank you so much for telling us where you are. We're going to go ahead and get this webinar kicked off. Pleased to meet you, Jarod. You're going to walk us through inventory mastery today. We're really excited to be here and talk about this process. This is great for your operations. We'll be talking about it as an operational flow, but we'll also be talking about it from a lister perspective as well. So, Jarod, if you want to take a few moments to talk about yourself, get the webinar started for us and get these people some great information.
Of course. Thanks, Lonnie. Thanks, everybody, for joining. As Lonnie said, I'm Jarod. I'm the Client Services Manager here at Upright Labs. I've been with the company for about 3 years now, but I have a background in operations and production. My previous job worked as a operations manager or warehouse manager for a couple different locations, just helping the teams make sure they're as efficient as possible, make sure we have all of our SOPs documented and we're adhered by them. So that's been kind of cultivated into the knowledge that I have now in inventory. I'm really excited to share with you exactly what we have for you today. So with today, we're going to go over 3 major areas. The first one being optimizing your inventory. The second one, we're going to go over some best practices for auditing that inventory. And then last, we're going to go over some practices for your management team or just the team in general, based off of the size of your organization, team, and e-commerce and headcount. And then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions. But as Lonnie said, if you do have questions throughout, pop into that chat. She'll be answering those for you. So let's dive into it. Like I said, first things first, optimizing your inventory. We're going to go over some equipment, some location sequencing, as well as a workflow for your inventory. This picture you see on the left is actual design and build out that we did for a client. You can see the inventory units, the boxes, labeling, everything that we like to use when we're doing redesigns and builds. As we're going through this, you're going to see some links too that we have for these items. So when you do receive this presentation, most of these photos, if you click on them, they're going to have a link to that actual website for the equipment that we're using. But diving right into it, want to start with the actual inventory units themselves that we use, or at least that we recommend. We recommend the Trinity units, just across the board, trying to get everything standardized, whether you're using Trinity, Uline, any of those other units that you want to use. Making sure that they're standardized is going to really help you look not only professional, but operationally, you're going to be very orderly and keep things in line. Just going to keep things for your team nice and orderly. Another key feature too that we like on our recommended units is the wheels side of thing. And the reason we recommend wheels, actually there's a few reasons, but one of the biggest pieces is for growth. So when you do grow, you want to expand, you want to add on to those inventory units. As you're adding more employees, you're increasing the number of listings that you're doing, you want to increase on your space. And if you need to move those items, it's a lot more difficult if they're on the floor. You either have to move all the items off the inventory units and then move them. It takes a few more people and a lot more time to do this. But if you're on wheels, you can simply move those units over. It's a lot easier. Some of the other pieces of equipment that we got here, I'd like to start off though from left to right, is actual product movement carts. So we have our units set up. We have where we're going to end up storing those, but how do we get them there? So product movement carts are key here. As you can see in our photo example, we have either Baker carts, basket carts, whatever you want to call them. Again, there's a link to, I believe this is a Uline site for you. Just anything that you want to transport those items. I've actually even seen several organizations use the inventory units as movement carts as well. They've got several different levels, and just a lot of different space that you can utilize to maximize the time you're using that piece of equipment. Now that we've actually got our pieces, our items that we've listed over to the area for inventory, we need to find a spot. So we're going to move into the unit signs. This is just a really clear way to signify which unit you're working towards. And then at the end of the rows and aisles, and we'll go over the difference in a little bit on the importance of that, we actually have which units are in each one of those. So in this example, they have 1 through 3, then they have a space, and then 4 through 7, just to let everybody know what's in that row and aisle. If you have 1 through 10, you can change that labeling as you see fit, but just making sure that it's really big and clear. Now that we've gotten to the unit, we want to move to the actual location that we're moving into. So location signage. This is just an easy way to specify which section of that inventory unit that you're placing that item for, and then in turn, a specific location that you're going to go find that item once we have an order for it. And to further elaborate on that, we have a labeling system that we recommend. We like to have clear barcodes, but also a clear labeling system. We like to use unit, shelf, and bin as a signifying location for each one of our items. We'll go over why we like that specific area. And actually, if you click on this photo right here, it's going to go over those boxes that you've seen on these inventory units that we've seen throughout. You don't necessarily have to use those bucket boxes. We highly recommend them. There's going to be two different sizes, a smaller size and a larger size. The large ones specifically fit those Trinity units and a lot of other units, but really work well with those Trinity sizes. So just make sure if you're going to purchase those boxes, you're doing the measurements on your units to make sure that they fit before you start purchasing. All right, inventory setup. Now we've got our equipment. We want to work into how we are setting up that inventory. I just mentioned we're going to go into why we like to get as specific as possible, but let's get through some of the details first. So we really recommend using numbers as opposed to letters when we're naming our locations. And the reason for that is it's a lot easier to understand that 10 comes before 15 as opposed to J comes before O, right? So it's just is a lot easier to understand. It's easier to onboard individuals, but the more specific you are able to be on the areas, it's the smaller space you're going to have to look through. So let's walk through a couple examples. On the right, I have 3 different examples of what we've actually seen on site at different clients. The first one I've seen is when we just label the entire unit as a location. Now, the issue that I see with this naming convention is that we are now looking for one item across every single shelf and location on that unit. So that can create a little bit of time. The second option we have down here, it's a little bit better. We actually now have each one of the shelves labeled, so we can see if we're looking for an item and it's on A3, now they're narrowed down to one specific shelf. But again, we want to get as specific as we possibly can. So now here at our bottom example, this is what we at Upright recommend: unit, shelf, and bin. So we can then signify an exact location of that unit that we want to go to. So